Greetings, wizards! Today I will rank all 14 Dragon Priest masks based on their power and utility, from worst to best. This is of course my own opinion and will vary depending on your build, but feel free to share your thoughts with a comment below. Now let's kick things off. You may have forgotten about this one, but starting off the list we have the Wooden Mask. Just a tremendous bit of kit really, and equip it with the wooden sword and you've got yourself a formidable set. Just kidding, I really wouldn't bother with this one. Alright, that's enough wood puns. Its base armor is 1, which wouldn't defend against a mud crab, and even its weight holds more value. It's the weakest of all headgear in the game, by far, and that's probably because it's made of wood, hence its name. One would think selling it is a good idea, but wait a minute! The effect on the mask hints at its purpose, and when it is worn inside the barrow, it sends the wearer back to a time before the destruction of the Bron-Djunnar Sanctuary. And spoiler alert, here the Dragon Priest Shrine is restored, and the busts of the 8 Dragon Priests found in Skyrim can be displayed to reveal one final mask, Konarek. Now this one is exceptionally powerful, but more on that later. So the wooden mask is worth keeping for its time traveling abilities, and you also get some neat free storage with it too, but it's certainly not for wearing. The wooden mask cannot be upgraded and is found not far from this big hairy thing in the central barrow of Labyrinthian. And up next we have the runner-up to last place, Hevnorak. A heavy armor mask with a good defense this time. It translates to brutal from the dragon language and ensures that its wearer is protected from whatever grime comes their way. I say whatever, but that's not actually quite entirely the case, as I'll discuss in a moment. It has a base armor rating of 23, which is typical of nearly all heavy armor Dragon Priest masks, and matches the rating of a Daedric helmet while weighing considerably less. Its protection, however, extends beyond what is superficial, and its unique enchantment grants you immunity to disease and poison, so it says. Now let us discuss this. By the sounds of it, you're immune to all diseases and poisons, right? But that's not exactly true, as here's the thing. Diseases contracted from traps and the poison gas in Calcelmo's laboratory, for instance, ignore any and all resistance. So you can't quite waltz on down anywhere, expecting complete immunity, especially with the fact that poison resistance is capped at 85%. So with that all said, the enchantment should really read immune to most diseases and poisons. Regardless, it's still worthy of a spot in one's inventory, and can be useful if you know what you're up against, especially when battling giant swarms of those venomous biting insects. However, Bosmer already have an innate 50% resistance, making this mask to them somewhat obsolete. Argonians also inherently gain a 50% resistance to disease, with Redguards a 50% resistance to poison, but both miss out on the other's resistance. With that all said though, any race can achieve full resistance to both by becoming a vampire. Werewolves also gain a 100% resistance to disease, but not to poison. Personally though, I'd rather just wear the headgear of my choice, with enchantments I know I'll make use of, temporarily suffer the consequences of my actions, and then responsibly deal with any outbreaks afterwards. Because if you do contract any disease, you can just head to any shrine in the game to activate it and receive its blessing, which instantly cures you. Just make sure it's in a timely manner, or it will suck. Alternatively, if you're on the go and CBA to visit a shrine, a cure disease potion will do it, or you can wing it by practicing your aim by shooting down some hawks for their feathers.
Target hit.
Hevnorak can be upgraded with an iron ingot, benefits from the Daedric smithing perk, which doubles its improvement, and can be found during the quest Evil in Waiting within the ancient Nordic ruin of Valthum. At number 12, it's Ragot. This heavy armor mask stands out, displaying a mixture of bright green and yellow colors, and translates to anger. Like Hevnorak, it has a high base armor rating of 23 and a weight of 9, making it a well-suited piece for heavy armor warriors, especially because of its enchantment, which increases your stamina by a hefty 70 points. Unfortunately though, it sounds a lot better than it looks, but it is extremely useful for power attackers, especially the two-handed type. And speaking of two-handed, I do love it when weapons and armor complement each other, and Volendrung is a great example of this. The Hammer of Might matches the dark sea green aesthetic of Ragot very nicely, and even aligns its effect. With both the mask and the weapon, you'll be power attacking for days, and will look very threatening. Let's not forget about the trusty mace of Molag Bal too. It also boasts that tasteful, bright green aesthetic, and takes the enemy's breath away, literally. Ragot is not only useful to power attackers though, as archers can make use of it too, with their steady hand perk. But to be honest, if you are retrieving this mask with one of the main reasons to extend the duration of your steady hand perk, you should really aim to improve. Stamina is also useful when block bashing and dodge rolling, but if you don't do either and rarely require additional stamina in combat, Ragot's single effect is not for you. Top tip: if you do find yourself running into oxygen debt while out adventuring, just wait 1 hour to instantly refill the whole bar. This won't work if you're engaged in combat, and you'll first have to clear up or evade the enemy. And I can't tell you how many times a mud crab has been the culprit. Like, you'll never catch me, fella, unless I pull a muscle. Ragot can be upgraded with an Orichalcum ingot, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk, which doubles its improvement, and can be found during the quest Siege on the Dragon Cult within the ancient Nordic ruin of Foulhost. Up next, it's Morokai. It translates to glorious, but let's be real, there's nothing glorious about this light armor mask's pitiful armor rating. In fact, it has the lowest base armor of all the Dragon Priest masks, bar the wooden mask, and even the Skull Hat has more defense. But don't let that discourage you, for this mask has a pretty sweet enchantment for mages and increases your magicka regeneration by 100%. With this mask equipped, you can cast spells more frequently, especially the concentration kind, without the worry of what that magicka bar is doing. It effectively counteracts the debuff attached to the Atronach Stone, and High Elves will benefit from it the most, since their racial power, Highborn, increases their magicka regeneration by 25%. Kit them out further with the Archmage's robes and the Apprentice Stone, and you'll have a whopping 325% magicka regeneration. Now all this sounds great, until you remember that 1. Its armor rating still sucks. 2. The Mage Armor perk provides no boost when a Dragon Priest mask is equipped. 3. Magicka doesn't regenerate while you're casting spells, so you have to finish casting before it starts replenishing. And lastly, 4, which is perhaps the worst of all. In combat, the Dragonborn's magicka regeneration is reduced from 3% to 1% per second. Redonkulous. It's no wonder most people prefer fortifying magicka instead. But if you are still interested in some magicka regen, may I suggest Elsewhere Fondue? It's delicious and perfect for a wizard. Fun fact, Morokai was supposed to have an additional effect that reduced shout cooldown by 20%, but Bethesda botched its enchantment. Morokai can be upgraded with Refined Moonstone, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk, which doubles its improvement, and can be found during the quest, the Staff of Magnus, within the sprawling Nordic ruin of Labyrinthia. And the 10th best mask goes to Vulcan. Also known as Shadow in the Dragon language, this heavy armor mask is useful for mages, and like many others on this list, offers top-notch protection, on par with a Daedric helmet, minus the weight. Its enchantment gives you 3 effects, reducing the casting cost of spells from the Conjuration, Illusion, and Alteration schools by 20%. This grants mages, and even non-mages for that matter, the ability to cast a plethora of new spells without having to invest any points in their base magicka. You'll have access to all Novice, some Apprentice, and even a few Adept level spells like Oak Flesh, Soul Trap, and Rally right from the start. Ultima and Breton will benefit the most from this reduction, as they already have a 5-point bonus to 2 of these skills, and a 10-point increase in the third, but Ultima's unique racial effect makes them a better suited race for Vulcan, as they additionally gain plus 50 magicka. With the Archmage's robes, Necromancer amulet, Ring of Erudite, and the Atronach stone, a High Elf will have a massive magicka pool to work with, and with Vulcan's reductions, you'll be able to cast all Novice, Apprentice, and Adept level spells, nearly all Expert level spells. However, if you're not a mage, you probably won't see much benefit from this mask, apart from perhaps its armor. And speaking of its armor, as previously mentioned, the mage armor perk will sadly be inoperable. But like nearly all Dragon Priest masks, Vulcan can be upgraded with a steel ingot, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk, which doubles its improvement, and can be found during the quest, a scroll for Ansgar, within the ancient Nordic tomb of Highgate Ruins. Next up, Miraak. This is the only Dragon Priest mask to have a unique design, besides Konarik, and is the first mask on this list from the Dragonborn expansion. From Dovazul, Miraak translates to Allegiance Guide and can be a leveled light or heavy armor mask, depending upon your level, which of your corresponding skills, heavy armor or light armor, is higher.
Just a scratch.
If both skills are equal, then the light armor version will be received. Being a leveled item, the best version of the mask is revealed at level 60 or above, and here its base armor rating and enchantment reach their max. What is unusual though is that both the light and heavy armor variants at level 60 offer the same base armor rating of 27, easily gracing the top of their respective categories' defense. To put things into perspective, here are the second placed light and heavy armor headgear. As you can see, big difference, especially for the light armor version. Although Miraak's defense might be top notch, its enchantment is super underwhelming, especially given how much you have to go through to get it. I was expecting some sick unique enchantments to go with its armor rating, but no, just a plain magicka increase. Although any race will profit from this increase in magicka, the Ultima take the limelight again, due to their special passive ability. This bonus will be exceptionally helpful to wizards and the like, but if you're not a spellcaster, then your only benefit here would be its defense. Oh, and its intimidation. Unfortunately, Miraak is the only Dragon Priest mask that cannot be upgraded, and is obtained within Hermaeus Mora's realm following the quest at the Summit of Apocrypha. At number 8, it's Otar. This is the only Dragon Priest mask made from malachite, and the only one to not bear a translation. It is a heavy armor piece that prioritizes defense above all else, especially when it comes to magic wielders, but it doesn't skimp out on the physical side with a base armor of 23. Its triple enchantment will improve your resistance against fire, frost, and shock by 30 points. This is incredibly useful against any spellcaster and dragons, as all destruction elements are included. These effects combined with its base armor rating make the mask one of the strongest pieces of headgear in all of Skyrim, reducing incoming damage by a significant amount. Otar can be used as a decent substitute for the Dunmer's and Nord's abilities, but there's no harm in combining them together to attain 80 points in one element, with of course the additional 30 points in the remaining. Should you want to boost your frost resistance, Vampirism has got you covered, but you'll suffer in the fire department as a result. Nevertheless, Otar coupled with some other gear containing elemental resistance can make one nearly invincible to magic, but not quite. You see, the elemental resistance cap is set to 97.75%, so if you wanted that extra 2.25%, Absorb Magicka is the way, which ironically is a lot easier to achieve. If you're a Breton, just activate the Atronach Stone and use the Dragon Skin racial power. If you're not a Breton, then that's alright, the Atronach Stone, Atronach Alteration perk and Miraak's gear will get you there. Just to throw a spanner in the works, the Dragon Priest masks from the Dragonborn expansion, excluding Miraak, specialise in one element, and therefore do a slightly better job at resisting that element, while also offering an offensive bonus for it too. A tough decision, eh? Otar can be upgraded with Refined Malachite, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk, which doubles its improvement, and can be found within the ancient Nordic ruin of Rangvald. Now entering the upper half, we have Zakrisos. Translating to Swordblood or Bloody Sword, Zakrisos is the second Dragon Priest mask from the Dragonborn expansion, and its unique design is shared with Azidal and Dukan. This heavy armor mask provides the typical armor rating I'm sure we're now accustomed to, with its enchantment resisting shock by 50% and shock spells doing 25% more damage. This also buffs shock damage and chaos damage enchantments too, as well as the Stormcall shout for even more carnage. Just make sure no friendlies are about, as it doesn't discriminate. Quite jolting really, though shock is probably the least used spell type by enemies in Skyrim, with its siblings, fire and frost, being more commonplace. It's not to say that resistance to shock isn't useful though, think Storm Atronachs for instance, as well as Storm Mages, Wizards and Electromancers with their lightning cloaks, sparks and that killer Thunderbolt.
Teach you to mess with me.
Unlike Otar, the offense is a nice addition. Shock deals damage to the enemy's health, but not only that, half of that damage is subtracted from their magicka, making it especially useful against mages, withering away their reserve and eventually their ability to cast. Only a handful of enemies bear resistance to shock too, with just Storm Atronachs, Netches, Shock Spiders and Orchendel being completely immune. But then very few have an explicit weakness to shock. One advantage shock does have over fire and frost though is that it's lightning quick, making it easier for you to hit your target, but also easier for the enemy to hit theirs. Zakrisos can be upgraded with an Ebony Ingot, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk, which doubles its improvement, and can be found during the quest, The Final Descent, within the derelict excavation of Ravenrock Mine. Next up, Dukan. This is the second Dragon Priest mask from the unique trio found on Solstheim. This heavy armor mask translates to Dishonor, and its base armor of 23 puts it up there with the top boys for its class. Dukan yields the same effect magnitude as Zakrisos, however, in this instance, the speciality is Frost. This also affects weapons imbued with frost damage and chaos damage enchantments too, as well as the Frost Breath and Iceform Shout. Your enemies will have proper Baltic balls, especially with Dragonborn Frost. Skyrim is a cold place though, and a lot of enemies have adapted to these nippy conditions, some with little resistance and others with complete immunity to frost. All Nords, for example, inherently possess a 50% frost resistance, and so choosing the Nord with this mask equipped will benefit you the most. But it's worth noting that frost resistance is capped at 85%, so the extra 25% left over does nada. One doesn't have to become a Nord though to reach the cap. You can easily make it through enchantments, especially when applied on Stalrim armor, as frost enchantments on that icy set will be 25% stronger. Vampires also get an easy 50% or 100% frost resistance, depending on whether Dawnguard is installed. So with that in mind, it's best not to use frost against Nords and vampires. Like shock, frost drains one other attribute, that being stamina, and this is particularly useful when harnessed against melee warriors, and Dremora are a great example. I swear those fiends power attack on like nearly every strike, but removing their ability to do so makes for a much easier fight. What's also great about slowing enemies down is that you'll have a much easier time hitting your targets with follow-up projectiles. And if you combine frost damage with shock damage, you'll be sapping the life out of your adversaries in all 3 attributes. Dukan can be upgraded with an ebony ingot, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk which doubles its improvement, and can be found within the ancient Nordic ruin of White Ridge Barrow. And finishing off the trio is Azidal. This is the last mask from the Dragonborn expansion, and it translates to Embittered Destroyer, the most badass title in my opinion. Like its brothers, it is a heavy armor mask that boasts a 23 base armor rating and affects the only element that remains, that being fire. Azidal grants bonuses to fire damage by 25% and fire resistance by 50%. Weapons enchanted with fire damage or chaos damage are also boosted by the 25%, including the Fire Breath shout. Equip it with Dragonborn Flame and Paarthurnax's Meditation and your enemies will be fuming. Fire is a commonly encountered destruction element in Skyrim, and for many it's also the most dangerous, causing lingering burning damage and leaving one more vulnerable to follow-up attacks. For these reasons, fire resistance is a highly sought after enchantment, especially for vampires trying to offset their weakness to fire, and will benefit Dunmer the most since they already have a 50% resistance. Though, like shock and frost resistance, fire resistance is capped at 85%, so that extra 25% is also doing nada. But very few enemies are actually resistant to fire, with many a weakness to it, so you'll have a delightful time. Azidal can be upgraded with an ebony ingot, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk which doubles its improvement, and can be found at the conclusion of the quest, Unearthed, within the ancient Nordic tomb of Kolbjorn Barrow. Next up is Nakreen. On the dragon language, this heavy armor mask translates to Vengeance and is particularly useful for battle mages. This is mostly due to its magicka inducing effects, but its 23 base armor is also a nice addition. So what are the mask's magical effects? Well, it's another triad, which we always love to see, and increases magicka by 50 points, and reduces the cost of destruction and restoration spells by 20%. And you guessed it, High Elves will benefit the most from this magicka increase. This armor piece is great for the early and late game, especially for those tanky magicians regularly utilizing offensive and defensive spells. However, different playstyles who rarely utilize magic will find it useless, therefore lacking versatility. Nakreen can be upgraded with an ebony ingot, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk which doubles its improvement, and can be found during the main quest, the World Eater's Eyrie, at the sprawling dragon-infested ruin of Skuldafn. And beware, this is the only chance you'll get to retrieve this mask, as once you've left this area, there's no coming back. Sadly, I speak from experience. At number 3, it's Crosis. Fit for the most popular build in all of Skyrim, the Wizard. Nah, I wish. We're 50,000 strong now, and I thank you all for the incredible support. I was referring to the Stealth Archer, of course, and this mask will make them quiver in their boots, but it's also useful for some other sneaky builds, like the Thief. It translates to Sorrow and has the second highest armor rating of all light headgear in the game, making it incredibly valuable for any light armored character. Coming at you with a triple enchantment, it increases lockpicking, archery and alchemy by 20%. You can see why a thief and an archer will find this especially useful, but the increase in lockpicking and alchemy will also be situationally useful to anyone, as everyone at some point will be picking locks and cooking pots. Though for lockpicking, one could just own the Skeleton Key for an unbreakable pick, but if you can't be bothered to go through the Thieves Guild questline again, and are not yet at 100 lockpicking to own the Unbreakable perk, a limited supply of lockpicks isn't an issue, as long as you save first and reload if you run out. Though that can be a bit of a hassle. An increase in alchemy, on the other hand, is useful, allowing you to create more powerful poisons and potions to aid you. It's one of those Dragon Priest masks you don't need until you need it. Process can be upgraded with an iron ingot, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk which doubles its improvement, and can be found upon the mountaintop dragon lair of Sheerpoint. And one bonus tip, if you reach the peak before the Dragon Rising quest, you will only have to deal with the Dragon Priest, no dragon. More reason to get it as soon as you can. And the runner-up goes to Volsung. This is by far the most versatile Dragon Priest mask going and will suit all types of playstyles. It translates to horror and is one of few Dragon Priest masks categorized as light armor. With a base armor rating of 21, it sits in second place and is also one of the heaviest in its category with a weight of 5. Not that that really matters. Because the thing is, while wearing this mask, you'll be able to carry an additional 20 units of weight, have the ability to breathe underwater, and will also benefit from a 20 points increase to your bartering skills. One doesn't really need to explain why this is so good, but that's what I do here in this channel. The unlimited underwater breathing effect for starters is enough to warrant a permanent spot in your inventory, unless of course you're one of those lizard boys who naturally possess this ability. If you've ever come across a body of water in a dungeon, there's a very good chance there's some booty down there. Not that booty, I mean chests, but sometimes you'll get unlucky. Nonetheless, it gives you the freedom and time to explore at your own leisure, without the fear of drowning, which is also useful in outdoor bodies of water when harvesting ingredients like Nordic barnacles, hissed carp, and large antlers. Furthermore, the probability of finding an item with this enchantment on it is extremely low. However, there are still 1 or 2 fixed locations where it can be found, like in the Inner Sanctum for instance. Moving on, the extra 20 points to carry rate will again be appropriate for all, and so will the 20 points bonus to your bartering skills. You'll be able to carry more, sell for more, buy for less, and breathe underwater. It's an absolute no-brainer in my eyes, and that is why it's the runner-up. Volsung can be upgraded with an ebony ingot, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk which doubles its improvement, and can be found within the ancient Nordic ruin of Volskeig. Taking the top spot, it's Conor Reek. Better referred to as Warlord, this heavy armored Dragon Priest mask is like no other in terms of design and effect. It's made of gold with a black hood featuring a gold trim, which sets it apart from the other Dragon Priest masks. It stands out for sure, especially with its magnificent golden tusks. Conor Reek has a base armor rating of 24, the highest of any headgear apart from maybe Mirak, and his weight is just 7, 2 less than we typically find in other heavy armor masks. These stats and its aesthetic alone make it a highly sought after piece and justify its selling price of 3,200 gold, the 4th most valued piece of headgear in all of Skyrim, but please don't sell it. Its effect can be a lifesaver. When your health is reduced below 15% of its maximum, it can trigger a variety of effects. The most common casting the Grand Healing spell, which instantly restores 200 points of health to its possessor and any nearby allies, rendering its wearer near immortal. In addition to the first effect, Conor Reek can also provide you with a flame cloak lasting for 15 seconds, and if you're extremely lucky, the mask can even summon your very own spectral Dragon Priest to aid you in combat for 60 seconds. Although this only has a 3% chance of triggering, it's amazing when it happens, and much like the ancient Dragonborn from the Dragon Aspect Shout, the summoned Dragon Priest will appear spectral in form, but is twice the level. The Revenant, like all Dragon Priests, is also immune to poison, has the ability to walk on water, and has a range of powerful attacks. With the Atromancy perk, you can double the duration of the summoned Dragon Priest, and with the second perk of Summoner, you can increase its range to 72 feet. Conor Reek is a formidable mask, and a force to be reckoned with. They can be upgraded with a gold ingot, benefits from the Daedric Smithing perk, which doubles its improvement, and can only be retrieved once all the other Dragon Priest masks have been placed in their respective slots on the shrine, which is located in the Brom Junar Sanctuary in Labyrinthian. And so there we have it, all 14 Dragon Priest masks ranked. If you made it this far, then thanks for watching, Wizard, and thank you all for 50,000 subscribers. Onwards and upwards. To decide what I rank next, cast your votes on my community page. There are 24 hours remaining. And with that being said, this has been the Welsh Wizard, and I shall see you all in the next one.